Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to deploy a 3-tier application inside VMC and AWS and expose this 3-tier application to the internet. So first, before we can do that, we need to create some segments. Like we're going to create a web, app and database segment. So first let's start with a web segment. I'm going to assign a gateway directly to the web segment, which is going to be an interface on my actual tier 1 or my tier 1 gateway of the VMC and AWS environment. So the first gateway has just been created, which is also going to be my subnet of my web tier. Now that web's done, we're going to do the same with app, obviously a different subnet and a different gateway. And we're going to do the same with the database tier. Now that we have all our segments ready with the correct gateways, we can continue with going to the vCenter server. And here we can do a quick verification if our networks are there. And let's deploy a new Ovf template where we can deploy our 3-tier app with. So let's select some local files. And here I received a 3-tier application from one of my colleagues, Hakan Akkurt, and he provided me this 3-tier application. He created this. So I'm very happy with this because it's very handy. So let's just deploy the 3-tier application, the OVA. This OVA will actually deploy 4 different VMs for you. So let's continue with the validation. And select the correct data store. And eventually we need to assign the correct networks. So for web, obviously we're going to select the web network, for app the app, and for database the database. Now that we've selected the correct networks, one thing is important, that we need to set the correct gateway IP addresses and the IP address of the VMs itself. So remember that we've set the gateway in the VMC and AWS console. Make sure that the gateway is the same. And obviously we need to make sure that our VM IP addresses are in the correct ranges and get the correct IP address assigned. So every gateway is .1 and my VM IP address is either 101, and if there are 2 IP addresses, I'm calling them 102. So here we can see 102, and then my Web01 is going to be 40.101. And the database gateway will also be 8.1, 42.1. and the database IP address will be a 41.101 or 42.101. Let's do a quick verification, and that's done. Let's hit next and just hit finish. And let's wait for the VMs to deploy. And I did a little bit of fast forwarding, because otherwise this video will be too long. And eventually you will see that my 3-tier application is completed. We can see it over there, and those are my VMs over there. So let's make sure that we power them on. And we wait for I think 5 minutes until everything is powered on. Eventually you will see that it first boots up the database and the app, and then the actual web servers. The web server 2 is now up, and the web server 1 is now also up and running. So now we have all our virtual machines, or our 3-tier app virtual machines, are all turned on. So from this moment on, we are going to look at our networks. Here you can see I've selected my 3-tier app, and we can see my networks over there, which is IH app, IHDB, and IH web. And there's also a test network. I think I've assigned one of my VMs to a test network. I should change that to web, I think. But this is for now not important. So I think this is the second web server, which we're not going to use in this example. The next step will be that we're going to assign a net, or a public IP address, and a net translation to make sure that our web application is reachable from the internet. So let's go to the let's go to the public IP address first, and let's request a new IP address, a new public IP address. And now that we have this public IP address, we copy it. Let's see if it's there. Yes, we copy the public IP address. Or no, we're not copying it, but we go to the net, and we're going to add a net rule for that public IP address. So we need to make sure that we remember this address. And the only service that I'm going to enable is HTTP, which is all that's required for now. And then we're going to type in the internal IP address of the actual web server 1, which is 101, right? And let's hit save. And what we also need to do is create a firewall rule that enables connectivity going to the actual internal IP address from the outside. So this web app and database, these web app and database VMs are actually on the compute gateway. So we need to make sure that we're going to add a rule on the compute gateway. So let's add a rule that allows you to HTTP into the actual VM. Well, my source is going to be any, because I want to have the internet as a source. And for my destination, I can see that there's currently not a group, and I need to select a group, so I will need to create a new group, and with this web VM inside. So let's create a new group, set the members, And there are different ways to set a member. The easiest way for me is just to select the actual virtual machine. But for some reason I chosen to go for a computer name for now, and I did a equal Web01, where I basically specify the name of the VM. And as you can see here, if I click on view members, then I should be able to see my web virtual machine. There you go. So basically I see both of them. It doesn't really matter. Right now I am going to make sure that only one of them is in there. So let's do edit, because otherwise I may run into problems a little bit later. So let's remove the actual criteria. And let's make the name more specific. And let's do another check of my members. And here you can see I've only got the Web01 machine. So now we're good. Let's apply the group and select the service, which is going to be HTTP. Let's select, the service already needs to be there, we just need to search for it. And the action is allow, and let's publish the rule. So now we can start testing if our website is actually reachable from the internet. So we've done multiple things here, right? So now let's go to the IP address, public IP address. Let's hit enter, and here we can see our actual website. And in order to make it more nicer, I've added a DNS, external DNS record, where I basically added this public IP address and gave it a nice name. I registered a domain name www.acx.nu, where I'm going to remove the current www record, and let's do that. Let's delete it and add in a new www record, where I'm going to assign this new public IP address that we've just assigned in AWS. Let's add it, and yeah, let's test it out with the actual DNS name right now. That is just an internet DNS server. And let's open another window. And let's go to the actual DNS name, and here we can see that I can reach the same website. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next video. Bye bye.